Is happening? What's up, everybody? What's up? We're doing this. It is happening. I think it's happening. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. I was worried a little bit. There was a bit of a delay there, but it's for sure happening. How about those apples? Lucy, you should come hang out. We have a story kind of about cats. What's up, Farkas? Scott Farkas. He had yellow eyes. Classic. What's up, poopy cakes? The best kind of cakes are the poopy ones. That's what I say. Best kind of cakes. Poopy cakes. All right, all right. What's up, Kevin? What's up, Tim? What's up, Matthew? What's up, DLJ? Hello, Brisbane. Unfortunately, Brisbane is the one spot we're not hitting on this Australian tour, but I hope you can make it. I hope you can make it to one of the shows, DLJ. We're going to be in Perth, we're going to be in Melbourne, we're going to be in Sydney, and we're going to be in Adelaide. I hope you can make it to one of those. I'm sorry we're not coming to Brisbane this time around. It's just kind of a scheduling thing on who wants to bring us in and when. You get the idea. What's up, Sarah? Upstate New York. Yeah, that's a tough region. So Graham and I will definitely be back to the East Coast in 2020, and we're going to focus on more upstate type stuff. Like we're definitely coming back to Boston and New York City, but then we're going to do some other New England stops. We're definitely going to do Burlington, Vermont. We're going to do Portland, Maine. And yeah, we might try to do something. We'll try to do something upstate New York as well. What's up, Long Beach? What's up, Ross? Hello from Dublin. Good to see everybody. All right. So couple announcements here. So first of all, so Bad Religion was the song of the day 2 days ago. Yesterday we had the Time Warp in honor of the Susan Sarandon thing. But Bad Religion, American Jesus was the song of the day. A couple of you guys on YouTube, you commented that you Googled Bad Religion or YouTube Bad Religion, and the first thing that came up was the Hollywood Palladium show that I attended a couple nights ago. I guess somebody filmed it and posted it, which you're not supposed to do that, but, you know, we all know it happens all the time. And somebody said that they saw me in the audience, or they thought they saw me in the audience. So I did check out the video. Yes, you did see me in the audience. That was me. If you watch that Palladium show, good eye, by the way, because that, like, if I had just watched that video and was not looking, I don't think I would have spotted me because it's very hard. But if you look, it's if the stage, I'm stage left. So like if you're going as if you're standing on the stage, I am to the left of the people on stage. I don't know if that's true politically. I think Greg Graffin and myself are pretty much aligned. I don't know. I don't know which one's more to the left of the other. I'm not sure. I think we're probably about neck and neck politically. I'm a big Greg Graffin fan, by the way. I gotta have him on this show. A Greg Graffin interview would be so. I recommend his book, Anarchy, Evolution in the World Without a God, by Greg Graffin, who is not only a PhD, but also the singer of Bad Religion. How neat is that? Anyway, yeah, so if you do watch that video, that is me in it. And shout out to the folks who caught me, because that's pretty impressive. But I checked it out last night along with my fiance. I was like, I got to find this out if I can be seen in it. And then sure enough, yes, that is me, front, center, left. I'm up against the barricade. And the dude in front of me is way taller. So it's kind of, I actually was able to find myself because of him. Because I was like, wait a second, that was the dude who was in front of me. And then I was like, oh, that's me. And I could see my glasses. Anyway, so yeah, so that is me. Also, Jeffrey issued a slight correction. I referred to the Palladium as a club. You can't really call a venue like that a club. It seats 5,000 people. Fair point. Palladium, not really a rock club. That's bigger. That's more of a, I guess, a big theater. Maybe you would refer to something like that as. But yeah, 5,000 seater, not really a rock club. You know, just for me, That was the first time I didn't see Bad Religion at an outdoor festival. And usually at outdoor festivals, the sound's not quite as good. The sets are usually a little bit shorter. It's a much preferred environment to see them in it, to see any band you like, really, in an indoor venue. I like music festivals. You get a pretty big bang for your buck. You get to see a lot of great artists at one time. I celebrate that part of it. But, the overall atmosphere, it's usually not the greatest way to see a show. It's just, it's just the way it is. But so I was excited that I was seeing them indoors for the first time. But anyway, that's pretty much that. So fair point, Palladium, not a rock club. Today's song of the day, we're going to go with something by AJJ because I have their t-shirt on, and we're going to go with Do Re Mi. AJJ, great folk punk band out of Arizona. I believe it's Phoenix. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just Phoenix, Arizona, or Phoenix area, Arizona. But they're out of Arizona. Fantastic band, very political, very outspoken. Do Re Mi is a really fun track to get started with from them and then dive into their album. They used to call themselves Andrew Jackson Jihad. They changed their name to just AJJ. They are on Side One Dummy Records, which is the record label of a friend of the show, Joe Sib, who is not only a record label owner and fantastic musician and also fantastic comic. Joe Sib, check him out. And AJJ, song of the day, Do Re Mi. There you go. All right. So this was shared over on our Reddit subsection. And Robert Reich, who I agree with most of what Robert Reich has to say. I've disagreed with him a couple times on a couple things. But a lot of the times I think his videos are pretty cool. And they bring up some important points and some important issues. And they break them down in a very accessible way, which is really cool. This video, somebody shared this on our Reddit subsection. I skimmed it briefly, and I think it's a pretty good one. Let's check it out. All right, let's make me small. Let's make the video big. So check this out. Robert Reich, this is the 5-step CEO pay scam. So this is addressing what CEOs are really doing, essentially. CEO pay is sometimes 475 times that of the average worker. And it's at least 13 times that of the average worker. At times, it gets up to 475 times that of the average worker. In other countries, by the way, that's unheard of. When you look at other countries, it pales in comparison to the difference between CEO and worker pay. And by the way, if you read some of the text that justify that is usually pointed to as the Bible for conservative thinking and, quote, free market economics, something like Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, which I've read that book cover to cover. That book is actually against all that stuff. If you read Wealth of Nations, it calls for living wages. It calls for workers and CEOs to be treated fairly, or workers to be treated fairly by CEOs, rather. It calls for all that. If you really read that book, all that stuff is also in there. They're basically saying, hey, markets are fine. Let people have markets, but workers need to be treated fairly. And wealth, and that's so anyway. But regardless, we have a total predatory capitalistic system, which is what capitalism does. Capitalism is predatory, period. That's what it's set up to do. So it always eventually reaches a point where it's completely out of control. So, yeah, here's what Robert Reich has to say, and this is in the contemporary sense of the CEO pay scam.
Average CEO pay at big corporations topped $14.5 million in 2018.
Poor CEOs. Just 14.5 million, some of them. Man, what are they going to do?
That's after an increase of $5.2 million per CEO over the past decade, while the average worker's pay has increased just $7,858 over the decade.
So 5.2 million over a decade compared to 758 over a decade. And that's only in certain cases. Let's keep in mind, when you factor in inflation, when you factor in many ways, wages have gone down. Wages have gone down for workers. Minimum wage has not kept up with inflation. If minimum wage was anything close to what it should be, it'd be well over $20 an hour by now. So wages have been stagnant for years and years and years as a result of rugged neoliberalism, as a result of the deregulation of all workers' rights, as a result of the crushing of the unions. All right, so how did they do this? Here's the fun part of the video, or not the fun, but you know what I mean by fun part. So he explains what exactly they did, and that happens right about here. Check this out.
Isn't because CEOs have become so much more valuable.
Okay, so he's saying CEOs haven't become more valuable. It's not like they're like, the CEOs, they're doing so much more. The CEOs, ever since we did that undercover boss thing, all the CEOs, they're working in the warehouse for a week, and then they're working in the mailroom for a week, and then they're doing data entry for a week, and then they're being an administrative assistant for a week. They're doing all the different jobs, including being CEO, because they see the value in multi-training. It's not like that's happening. CEOs are just kind of being CEOs. That's what he's saying. All right.
Than before. It's not due to the so-called free market. It's due to CEOs gaming the stock market and playing politics.
So here's what happens. This is where he breaks it down into 5 steps.
How did CEOs pull this off? They followed these 5 steps. First, companies began paying their executives in shares of stock. Second, they directed their companies to lobby Congress for giant corporate tax cuts and regulatory rollbacks. Third, they used most of the savings from these tax cuts and rollbacks not to raise worker pay or invest in the future, but to buy back the corporation's outstanding shares of stock. Fourth, this automatically drove up the price of the remaining shares of stock. Fifth and finally, since the CEOs are paid mainly in shares of stock, CEO pay soared while typical workers were left in the dust.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So that's how they did it. That is how they did it. They inflated their own stocks by buying their own stocks with the tax cuts that they were given by Congress. They lobbied Congress, got the tax cuts they wanted, sold the American public and Congress even this bill of goods. Not that it matters, because you can just buy Congress. And that's what they did. They lobbied, they bought Congress with money, but they still sold the public this bill of goods. We're going to use these tax cuts to create jobs, to give stuff back to the workers. Then what did they do with those tax cuts? They bought extra shares of stock to inflate their own stocks that they already had investments in. So they basically used, in short, they used tax cuts to pad their own pockets even further. And they didn't invest in their workers, and they didn't invest in jobs. That was a big lie. And whenever somebody tells you that tax cuts lead to jobs, that it allows job growth, that the private sector is necessary for job growth, they're straight up lying at this point, because it has failed time and time again. It has failed every single time it has been tried, because it was never meant to succeed. In a way, it hasn't failed because it wasn't set up to succeed. It was just set up to be a lie and mislead the American people. So in that regard, it succeeded. As a lie to mislead the American people, it has succeeded, because that's what it was meant to do. It was meant to be a lie to mislead the American people. And it's been succeeding from the 80s until now. Been going, I'm taking my headphones out because I don't need it anymore. That's the only video we're going to talk about today. So Robert Reich summed it up in those 5 points. They used the tax cuts to buy more stock when they already have stock in the first place, which inflates its price. So all these breaks that companies are getting, they're not going into the workers. They're going into allowing their CEOs to game the stock market for their own advantage. And what eventually happens to said stock market? It plummets because of them gaming the system. And then what happens when it plummets? Our government bails them out. So basically, there is a system in existence where you can lobby Congress, get what you want, and then with that money that you promise to workers, you put it in your own pocket, you buy up your own stocks, you inflate the price, and then you get richer. And then because of this inflation, because you rigged your own system, eventually the bubble bursts. And then what happened when the bubble burst? You get more money from the government. So basically, you're cheating a system, making yourself rich in the process. And then when your cheating causes a plummet, you get bailed out. Man, what a system for the rich. If you're the richest of the rich of the rich. It's basically saying, go ahead and cheat, go ahead and lie, go ahead and steal. And when the bubble bursts, we got your back. That's what the United States government does. And that's what the CEOs do. This is our system. Man, ain't that great? Ain't that great? And you're supposed to work for these people and shut up and not complain. You're supposed to not stand up for your rights. If you strike, you're the problem. If you strike, your own company will mock you. When workers were striking for basic rights over at Amazon, they were mocked by Amazon. They were mocked for saying, we want living wages. We want to be treated properly. We want proper warehouse facilities. We want proper air conditioning instead of just having an ambulance sit outside of our warehouse facilities because you'd rather take us to the hospital when we collapse from heat exhaustion than give us proper working environments. We don't want to be treated like robots by having something attached to us that shocks us if we make a wrong move with our hands. And meanwhile, this is happening, and it's going to keep going up. The gap is going to keep getting bigger and bigger until we have a massive strike in this country. All right. So Robert Reich, good summary there. That's what's really going on. That's what CEOs are really doing. So next time somebody uses the Paul Ryan talking point, oh, we just got less taxes, more jobs. It's a lie. It's been a lie for over 30 years because it was meant to be a lie in the first place. All right. So speaking of which, Christina shares this. This is from Christina. Is the U.S. steel industry thriving? So Trump said that the steel industry is thriving. Is that true? Last week, U.S. President Donald Trump said that at a rally that the U.S. steel industry was thriving under his presidency. Last year, Trump imposed a 25% tariff on U.S. steel imports. However, despite these tariffs, U.S. steel stocks have had a rough ride. All right. So However, the equity markets seem to believe otherwise. U.S. steel corporations and Nucor have lost 37.6% and 4.5% respectively. AK Steel has been slightly better off and is up 1.8% year to date. However, AK Steel fell a whopping 60% last year. All right. So what's been driving this sell-off? So people are selling off stock in the steel industry. Plants are closing. That's continuing. So what's been driving this sell-off? Recession fears have spooked metals and mining investors. According to the article, Germany's second quarter GDP growth slipped into the negative territory. China's economic data has also been quite dismal this month. The U.S. steel industry isn't immune to China's slowdown. To make things worse, the U.S. yield curve inverted last week, further igniting recession fears. Given growth concerns, steel might be the last industry investors want to get into. Aluminum and copper stocks are sold off last week, and Alcoa hit a fresh 52-week low. The U.S. steel industry wants the Trump administration to get tough on China. However, given the current scenario, U.S. steel companies should now hope for an amicable solution to the trade dispute. A slowing China won't help make the steel industry great again. That is according to this Market Realist article that Christina shares. And they want me to get real. Get real, Ron. Get real. Get your real market. All right. Thank you for that, Christina. So once again, there's another industry that's not necessarily thriving because guess what? And you know, I'm not an expert in the international steel industry, nor do I pretend to be. This is just one article. This is just one source, and that's their analysis. But looking at this big picture, the economy ain't doing so hot. And whenever people try to tell you the economy is doing well, they're really cherry picking the data they throw at you. And who's doing stuff like that? Trump supporters. Is this a unique scenario? No. When Obama was in office, people did the same thing. When Obama was in office, people who liked Obama said, hey, unemployment's down. Unemployment is a very skewed, almost useless statistic because it doesn't take into account people who are underemployed which is most people in this country at this point. It doesn't take into account people who have got discouraged and stopped looking for work. It doesn't take into account any of those entities. And underemployed being the big one. And it's skewed on how it qualifies things. So it's not really that strong of a statistic. But if you like who's in the White House, you'll use that number when it's convenient for you. When the number's a little lower, Trump supporters will say, see. When Obama was in office and the number was lower, people would say, see. And then people who weren't a fan of the president would say, hey, look, that's actually kind of a skewed way to look at it. We actually have a lot of issues. And big picture, what you're saying is inaccurate. Now, somebody like me who has no sacred cows, I said that when Obama was in office. I'm saying it now that Trump's in office. Yeah, the economy's not great. The economy's not great because we have an economy that only benefits the 1%. And we only sound the alarm when something's affecting them. When Wall Street is hurting, that's when we actually talk about what's going on economically. And that's our gauge for how the economy's doing. And when I say that, I mean in the corporate media sense. They never talk about the fact that most Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency, that there's more medical bankruptcies in this country than for any other reason, that people can't get a higher education without going into crippling debt. They never talk about that when assessing the economy. They say how the stocks are doing. That's what they talk about. All right. So there's some getting real from my perspective. Thank you for sharing that, Christina. And let's see here. Got a couple more things here. We're going to go over to the CNN next. Joseph shares this article. So a Parkland father has some words for Bernie Sanders here. So let's go through this. Parkland dad to Bernie Sanders over past gun views. Your votes and what you've done are still there. All right, so this is a Parkland father who is pursuing tougher gun policy, which is awesome. I don't blame the father at all. I think that's awesome that he's doing that, and my heart goes out to that father for his loss. That's terrible, and he is not convinced on Bernie Sanders. So let's see what he has to say. And of course, CNN would want to highlight something like this because it's it's anti-Bernie. So if you're anti-Bernie, that's CNN loves you. All right. So Fred Guttenberg doesn't have a candidate in the 2020 Democratic primary race. He has a cause, and her name is Jamie. So Jamie was one of the victims in the Parkland school shooting. So since that day, his mission has been to push for stricter gun and ammunition laws. And he's not afraid to call anyone who gets in the way, even if that happens to be Bernie Sanders. So Bernie says, all over the world, people are looking at the United States and wondering what is going on. What is the mental health situation in America, where time after time after time we're seeing indescribable horrors? So Guttenberg believes connecting mental health to gun violence is an NRA talking point. It is. Yeah, in many ways it is. I don't think that was what Bernie Sanders was doing here, though. Let's read the quote again. All over the world, people are looking at the United States and wondering what is going on, what is the mental health situation in America, where time after time after time we're seeing indescribable horrors. So here's what Guttenberg wrote. Shame on you, Senator Sanders, for these comments. This is a gun issue. To use the gun lobbying talking points only discredits you as a presidential option this following weekend. So I do agree, and here's what else Guttenberg has to say. I do agree we as a country need to deal with a broken mental health system. But when we have gun violence, we need to be really specific. All right. So here's a couple things that Sanders, one of the most progressive voices in Washington, has long been criticized for his votes on two pieces of gun legislation. In the early 90s, Sanders, representing Vermont in the House, sided with the gun lobby and voted against the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, known as the Brady Bill. It became law in 1994, included tougher background check provisions and a waiting period for gun purchases. More than a decade later, he voted to protect gun manufacturers from being sued by victims of gun violence. All right. So, and we've talked about all these before. First of all, Bernie has a D- rating with the NRA, probably pushing towards an F. For the gun manufacturers, He lives in a state where there's a lot of independent gun store owners and stuff like that. He didn't want to see them be responsible. Was it the right judgment call? Probably not. Probably not. Bernie's gotten stuff wrong before. He'll get stuff wrong in the future. Bernie's not perfect. Neither is anybody else. As far as actual gun policy in this country, which again, and I've said this before, some of you disagree with me on this, and I really respect your optimism, and I wish I shared it. I do not believe I will ever see any gun policy in my lifetime. Not in this country. Not in this country. The NRA, even though people say they're waning in power, I really don't see it. They have Congress by the gullet. They still have immense power. And I just don't see any common sense gun policy happening in my lifetime. I just don't. I hope I'm wrong. I so want to be wrong. But if I'm being honest with you, I don't see it happening. I wish it would. I'll do everything that I can do as an individual to try to make it happen. I'll support anybody going on that cause. Now, what I would say to this Parkland dad is like, look, yeah, Bernie Sanders isn't perfect, but as far as realistic gun policy in this country and who your options are in the White House, who do you think you're better off with than him? Who do you think you're better off with? I don't think any. I mean, you think Kamala Harris, the person who's a cop and giggles at throwing people in jail, you think she'd do anything about gun policy? Joe Biden, the guy who sounds like a Republican whenever he talks? Pete Buttigieg, the guy who wouldn't even fire a corrupt police chief over racism in law enforcement? Think that guy will do something about gun policy? The guy who has no policy ideas whatsoever and won't even talk about it? When he's asked about it, he says, let's not focus on policy. Let's focus on my likable personality. Beto O'Rourke, who stands for absolutely nothing at all, who backpedals on everything, who takes a bunch of money from oil and gas, and is in the state of Texas. You think that guy? Think the NRA ain't powerful in Texas? Cory Booker, who will stab a pharmaceutical bill that could have gotten us cheaper prescription drugs, stab that in the back with a smile on his face, then all of a sudden, right after he did Big Pharma's bidding, stopped taking their money. Randomly, he said he stopped taking their money so that it looked better. The only time you ever hear from Cory Booker is when he has a crocodile tear moment or a moment to call out Trump for something outrageous Trump says and give himself a juicy soundbite. Even in every debate, he never talked about anything specific. He just said, "Hey, Trump's bad." He might as well have just worn a T-shirt that said, "Trump's bad, please applaud," and said nothing. Cory Booker would have had the same effect in every debate he's been in thus far. Who do you think you're better off? And then a Republican, forget it. They're owned by the NRA. So, I salute this Parkland. I salute this Parkland dad. What was his full name again? Guttenberg. What was his first name? Fred Guttenberg. I salute him for what he's doing. And my heart goes out to him for his loss. But, if you're going to call out Bernie Sanders, you should really call out everybody else too. And, in this article, it says he's undecided in this race. I don't know who you're going to be better off with than Bernie Sanders if you want realistic gun policy in this country, as far as president goes. I don't know who you're better off with. Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard are pretty much the only options if you ever want some realistic gun policy in this country or a chance at it. And again, I don't think it's going to happen. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope. And I will make a video when that day comes. And I'll be like, guys, I have never been more happy to be wrong. I was so wrong on that one. We have a common sense gun policy in this country where we have restrictions on how much ammo people can buy, where certain guns have to be kept at a range, where you have to register your gun like you do a car, where you have to have an extensive background check, where you have to pass a gun safety class, where you have to have reference letters. These are all things other countries do, by the way. We could do all of these things, where we had an extensive buyback program, where you have to register and give a reason when you want a gun. These are all things we can do. And if you're a gun owner that has followed all the rules thus far, If you're a gun owner who is responsible, who would never think about committing a heinous act, you just use it for hunting. Is this inconveniencing you a little bit? Yeah, it most certainly is. Yeah, it totally is. But isn't it also better to live in a society that doesn't have the mass shootings that we have? Wouldn't that be awesome? And by the way, when is that logic ever applied anywhere else? Have you ever heard anyone go, why do I have to show up at the DMV again? I'm a good driver. I haven't been in any accidents. Why do I have to show up again and register? Well, because we have to do that to try to have some safety on the road, to try to make sure that vehicles are following emission standards, and to try to make sure that vehicles are registered properly. I mean, maybe that's not the best analogy in the world because the DMV is kind of a racket, but you get the idea. No one ever says, we all hate going to the DMV. It's a big pain in the butt. Nobody likes it. Nobody's like, oh, I get to go to my DMV. But we just accept it as something we have to do. Nobody's like, I'm a good driver. Why do I need to go again? You just accept it. So why can't we have more common sense gun laws in this country? And if you are a responsible gun owner, you just got to accept that. You just got to accept, look, I've never caused any harm. I'm a hunter or whatever. Yeah, so you're going to be a little more inconvenienced now because we have a gun catastrophe in this country, and that's putting it gently. I don't even know what the right word is for what we have, but it's insane, and no other country has it quite like this. No other country with our amount of wealth, and that's a first world country at our level, has the mass shooting problem that we have. So you know, and I'm sure CNN ran with this piece. I'm sure that this guy, you know, he didn't like Bernie's quote, which I think, was it the best choice of words? Getting back to the quote here, let me read it again. So the quote that Bernie said, all over the world, people are looking at the United States and wondering what is going on. What is the mental health situation in America, where time after time we're seeing indescribable horrors? Now, was that the best choice of words from Bernie Sanders? Maybe not. I think that's fair. But to really take that quote and to say Bernie's pushing NRA talking points, that's a huge overamplification of what he actually said. That's a huge kind of, I would say, misinterpretation and overamplification of the point he was making. Was it his most productive aside? No, it wasn't. That's fair. But to then say, oh, he's parroting NRA talking points, that's a bit much. And if you're going to be that scrutinizing about Bernie, you should be that scrutinizing about all the other candidates too, which I hope you are being. And if you are, I don't think we're better off with anyone other than Bernie Sanders. If you want common sense gun policy in this country, I do not think any other candidate will touch it. Oh, Liz Warren, she'll talk about it when the cameras are on. She'll talk about it. She might even wag her finger at the NRA. And then when push comes to shove, she will do nothing. So I guarantee you there's not even anybody on that stage other than Bernie Sanders that has the courage to embrace Medicare for all, the health care plan most Americans want. But they're scared to go against the insurance lobby. You think they'll go against the NRA? You think Hillary Clinton would have went against the NRA? Bernie Sanders isn't perfect. He's made mistakes, and he'll make more in the future, just like any other person who will ever sit in office anywhere. But if you want common sense gun policy, as far as president goes, you don't have a better option than Bernie Sanders. By miles. And this isn't a lesser than two evils statement. He's the only one where you actually have a chance that he'll go up against the NRA. No one else would have the courage to even touch it. So, again, I applaud this guy's efforts. I applaud what he's doing, and my heart goes out to him for his loss. And I hope he examines everything that's going on in 2020, and I hope he really takes a look at these different candidates. And I hope he scrutinizes them with the same lens as he's going to scrutinize Bernie, and look at their past and look at what they're all about. All right, so there we go. Let's talk about other stuff. Okay, here's something Now, our last story today, I got to tell you guys, is probably going to really depress me, and I'm a little nervous. I'm worried I'm going to, and hopefully Lucy comes over for it because it's about Panthers. I'm hoping we got a Lucy for it. Oh, by the way, you guys said that you didn't like it when I started early yesterday. So I made sure I did not start early today, and I will be more mindful of that in the future. I started early. I was just ready. I had a pretty full day in other ways, so I started a little bit early, but it did throw some things off. I will be more careful about that. All right. So we've been covering the facial recognition issue a lot. Facial recognition issue. We've been covering the facial recognition issue a lot. One of the things that's going on there is Ring, which is owned by Amazon. They sell cameras for your front door, where if someone comes to your front door, you have video footage of who's there, which, that's one thing. That's fine. I get that. I have a friend was in a neighborhood that had a lot of break-ins. They got something for their front door. I get that. Here's the issue, though. What Ring is doing is they're partnering with law enforcement. And then law enforcement is then being a salesperson to the people who buy the Ring equipment. And they're trying to get all the footage from their video surveillance. They just want access to it so they can experiment with facial recognition software. So if you get all that footage from everybody in the neighborhood who maybe has Ring, before you know it, you have the surveillance of an entire neighborhood. And you're going to experiment with facial recognition software. Now, England already did something in real time where they had facial recognition software going in real time. And if something popped up, like say somebody popped up where it's like there's a warrant out there for their arrest, they would go arrest them in real time. This is Orwellian and disturbing. Not to mention, this equipment they're using, incredibly faulty. It's wrong up to 98% of the time. It causes mismatches constantly. Where does it cause the most mismatches? Amidst Black people, people of color, women, children. That's where the mismatches happen the most. And law enforcement is working in conjunction with Ring to surveil you, to have mass surveillance of you. And what have they done with these databases so far? Well, they've searched them without warrants. These facial recognition databases, they searched them without warrants, without probable cause. They searched for personal information that they want. One police officer wanted information on an ex. He went through the database to do that. Oh, and another fun fact about these databases, they're really susceptible to hacking. They get hacked really easily. A border patrol office got hacked. Bunch of travel photos just hacked. So imagine they had a database of sensitive information about us along with professional licensed photos or something like that, and that got into the wrong hands. What do you think could happen? And I understand sometimes we need to give up a little bit in the name of safety for the public good. I get that. I'm not some total idealist there. But I know an overreach when I see it. And I also know that there's no evidence that facial recognition technology is keeping us any safer. There's evidence to the contrary. There's detectives that have come out and said, this is bad. This does not keep us any safer. This does not help us hunt the good guy because the software itself is too faulty. All this does is leave the door open for abuse and misuse. And that's all that's happened so far. So here's another thing that's happening that Vice reports on. Cities are asking Ring to share registry list of customers who bought surveillance cameras. Police want the names and addresses of people who own Ring cameras so they can tap into a private surveillance network. Cities and local police departments have asked Ring, Amazon's home security company, to share the names, home addresses, and email addresses of every person who has bought a home surveillance camera through taxpayer-funded subsidy programs. So what this is when somebody is buying a Ring product, for every $100 residents save when buying a Ring product, the city pays $50 and Ring pays $50. So cities are giving people incentives to buy this, and they buy this and they're in cooperation with Ring to turn it all over to law enforcement. So again, they want the names and addresses of everybody so they can go get their information. So that they can be like, hey, you got to share your footage with us. You got to make sure we have access to it. It'll keep you safer. And then if everybody does that, all of a sudden, police are mass surveying a neighborhood all the time. They can see everything. Because if you add up everybody's front door, you look out and you kind of see everything. You see what's going on everywhere all the time. That mass surveillance does not make us safer. It does not make us a safer society. It does open the door to a lot of abuse. It does open the door to over-policing. And we already have such an over-militarized police force. Imagine if they did something like what they experimented with in England in the United States. Imagine that in real time with the help of something like Ring. People are being surveyed all the time, and police are just driving around. All of a sudden, this match pops up, and they say, oh, there's a warrant for this guy's arrest. And they just go grab the guy in real time and arrest him. It may or may not even be the person they're looking for. Imagine a situation like that in the United States. Think about how many deaths happen at the hands of police. How many unarmed people are shot by police. Imagine, oh, by the way, it's most faulty amidst black people and people of color. So just imagine what would happen if police started doing that in the United States. If they started arresting people at will in the United States because of faulty software that may or may not even be the person they're looking for. Oh, and they've already deported people, and it wasn't the right person. They've deported people to countries they've never even been to because they got a mismatch. That's already has happened. And this is what Ring is doing. This is what Amazon is doing in cooperation with law enforcement. So they want their information so they can mass survey an entire neighborhood. And this is not keeping us safer. This is opening the door for a way more militarized police force. We already have a grossly over-militarized police force. Maybe the most over-militarized police force in the world. This is going to amplify that by a bunch. And this is opening the door to some really, really dangerous things. You can go to banfacialrecognition.com right now, sign the petition. 3 cities have already banned it. Cambridge, Massachusetts. I just had a brain fart. Cambridge, Massachusetts, Oakland, California, San Francisco, California. Isn't it interesting that 2 of the first cities to ban it are the cities where it's being developed? It's being developed in Silicon Valley. Oakland, San Francisco said, get this out of our city. That should tell you everything you need to know. Go to banfacialrecognition.com, sign the petition. All right. So that's happening. That's happening. We're making Orwell a reality. 1 camera at a time. All right. So this is going on. Edwin shares this. Edwin shares this story with us. Lucy, you should come over here. Lucy, come on over. You should come over here because this is about your cousins, sort of. What's affecting some Florida Panthers' ability to walk? It's a mystery. So something is affecting the walking ability of some Florida Panthers and Bobcats. All right, so here's a video of this. They're having trouble. That actually looks okay. Here's where you can kind of see it really well. That they actually look like they were walking okay there. Here, look. See how they're stumbling? They're like kind of stumbling. See, oh, geez. Yeah, that's... See that? They look kind of okay there. I don't know if they're... Maybe it's that angle. It looks like they're just kind of walking leisurely. Lucy, come here. We're doing a story about Panthers. I need your assistance. All right, so something is causing these. This month, the FWC, which is the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation, they've confirmed neurological damage in 1 panther and 1 bobcat. All right, but they don't know what's causing this. All right, there she is. Check it out. She came. I appreciate that, Luce. I appreciate that. Well done. All right. So Lucy's here, which is good. So what else is going on in this article? So the agency is asking the public for any private trail video footage that happens to capture cats displaying symptoms of the condition. Be careful when you do that, by the way, because these are not Lucy's. These are Panthers. Be careful. So they don't know what exactly is causing this. Amber Crooks, environmental policy coordinator for the Conservancy of South Florida, a nonprofit that opposed a massive proposed development project in Collier County, she has not heard of any more theories as to what's causing the condition. So the population is facing many other threats, so this is concerning. So they don't know what exactly is causing this. They ruled out a couple things. All right, so here's what's going on. Numerous diseases and potential causes have been ruled out. A definitive cause has not yet been determined. That's what the agency has to say. So they don't know what's causing this. But panthers are having difficulty walking. If you look at that footage, it looks like if they were a person, like they were drunk or something. Like they're stumbling. So panthers are stumbling in Florida. We don't know why. This is really bumming me out. Panthers are close to cats. Lucy's a cat. If Lucy was ever walking funny, I would freak the fuck out. I would panic in an excruciating manner. I would go to the vet, and I would probably make them all panic. And then after it was just something minor and she was okay, they would probably all laugh at me later. Lucy got sick. Oh man, remember when he got sick and I lost my mind? One time a cat that's no longer with us, actually, that I used to have, he got the crystals, and what that is, if you're not in the know, it's basically this issue where they can't go to the bathroom, and if you don't get this emergency surgery, they die. It's very serious. It's incredibly serious. If you're a cat owner and you've never heard of this, if you're ever in a situation where your cat can't go to the bathroom and you see them trying and they can't, take them to the vet immediately. It is an emergency. They might need immediate surgery. God, this is freaking me out just talking about it. Oh my God. But anyway, I remember, I lost my mind. I got a little rude with one of the technicians because I was just so panicked. And I apologized later. I felt so bad. And anyway, so something's going on that's really screwed up. I hope they figure it out. Something's not right on our planet. Like something is seriously wrong, folks. Something is seriously wrong. Species are going away constantly. Over 1 million species have just gone away. We are seeing unforeseen temperatures. We're getting some of the hottest months ever on record. Climate change is happening. We have something to do with it. We need to do something. We have 12 years to the point of no return. How do you see all these factors and go, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Let me see what you guys are saying. Action for Assange. Thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Free Assange online visual tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, USA. We'll have a live band this evening and speak with an Australian organizer. Action for Assange. All right, so find Action for Assange on Twitter and follow that live stream. George Allen, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Greta Thunberg in the 1975 is totally unique. So I got to listen to that song. I haven't listened to it yet, but Greta Thunberg, the climate activist, did a song with the 1975. We talked about it on the show. We did a story about it. I've not listened to the song yet, which, by the way, I'll do a quick mention for Song of the Day. Oh, wait, I already did. AJJ, Do Re Mi. Sorry. My short term. Did I mention my short term is not what it used to be? You know what is what it used to be, though? Touring. Oh, Thunberg. I mispronounced her name. Thunberg. Thank you for that, Tom. Thunberg. Touring is totally what it used to be, right? This Thursday, by the way, tomorrow night, are you in Los Angeles? Do you want to go to an awesome show tomorrow night that I'm on, that Eddie Pepitone's on, that Camilla Cleese is on, that Mark Brazil from That 70s Show and 30 Rock is on? Well, email me. Go to ronplacone.com and email me. I'll put you on the guest list for tomorrow's show at Flappers Comedy Club. Ron Placone and Friends is tomorrow at Flappers Comedy Club. If you email me, say you saw it on the stream, I'll put you on the guest list. It's as simple as that, Los Angeles. Tour dates, I got them. Upper Midwest, September 4th, Omaha, Nebraska. September 5th, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. September 6th, Madison, Wisconsin. September 7th, Minneapolis, Minnesota, one of my favorite cities. Can't wait. And September 8th, Iowa City, Iowa. Go to ronplacone.com for tickets. November, Australia. Tickets are available now. Australia, don't wait. Get them now. They're going fast, which I'm so stoked for. Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney. Get your tickets, ronplacone.com. Come to Australia, or we'll see you in Australia. Oh, and some Jimmy Dore Show live dates that I'll be on. I'm going to be in Denver on Saturday. So anyone coming to Denver, I will see you there. I'm going to be on the live Jimmy Dore show this Saturday in Denver. That's recent news. I'm excited. Can't wait to see you. And I'll be there in Hawaii. So anyone who's going to be there in Hawaii for the live Jimmy Dore show, I will see you there. I'm stoked. Holiday in Hawaii. Be awesome. Steph called it, Steph Samarano said that it's kind of like my early honeymoon. Which in a way it will be. My fiance will be there. We'll all be having a good time. It'll be awesome. Denise, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Thanks, Ron. I might have missed it, but did you talk about the recent attack on Susan Sarandon by Neera Tanden? I love your news delivery. Thank you very much for that, Denise. And yes, we did talk about the Susan Sarandon thing yesterday. I tweeted about it some yesterday and today. We didn't mention Neera specifically. I think we might have mentioned her. We just covered it as a whole because it's not like it was just Neera. It was a group effort, but Neera kind of led the way. Neera Tanden did. So yeah, we talked about how that whole thing happened where she was trending on Twitter and she's still being blamed for Trump, which is beyond ridiculous. And we all know it's beyond ridiculous. So yes, we did talk about it, Denise. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. All right. Guys, thank you very much for being here. If you want to support the show on the sustainability end, please do become a patron. Patreon.com/Ron Placone for a give what you can level. You get all kinds of exclusive content, including my album. That's pretty cool. And you help me expand this show. I want to do more. I want to do more interviews. I want to do more streams. I want to bring this to a full-time status. I need your help to do it. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. If you're not able, I totally understand. Please like these videos, share, subscribe, and watch a separate window. Let the ads play through. Don't just do that for me. Do that for all the content creators you know and love, because it's what sustains our channels and what makes this possible. Banfacialrecognition.com. Go there. Sign the petition. This is not good. This is not good. It needs to be stopped. Banfacialrecognition.com. By the way, Bernie Sanders came out in favor of banning facial recognition for law enforcement. We covered that on the show. We'll be back tomorrow. Lucy, I'm worried about your brethren Panthers. I am worried. Hopefully they figure out what that is and they do something good about it. I hope. Here's hoping. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same channel. In the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.